Reverend Hill.
Yes, I'm right here. I'm right here.
Okay, Brother Ed, are we about ready?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the media, we thank you so much for coming out today for our press conference. This is to kick off the 2016 edition of Ringing the New Year with a Bell and Not a Bang. This is a campaign to encourage Detroiters not to shoot guns on New Year's Eve. This campaign began in 1997 as a city council initiative. I was a member of the city council at that time. A lady had been killed, Sandra Latham, who was a 47-year-old grandmother, killed actually in her own home at her dining room with grandchildren and children seated beside her. And I'm so proud that after we began this campaign, no one has been killed due to celebratory gunfire on New Year's Eve. And we've been tracking this every year between 12 and 2 a.m. We have not found any evidence of people being killed. Now, there is some shooting, but one of the things that we're learning is that around the community, from neighborhood to neighborhood, we hear different things. And what we're hearing is that in some neighborhoods, the gunfire has been reduced to almost nothing. In other neighborhoods, to be quite frank, it is still like a war zone. And that's why we're doing this. We have children from the Sunday school, the Plymouth United Church of Christ, where we are today, and they've made signs to encourage people to ring in the new year with a bell, not a bang. And also beside me, we have my friend, my colleague in the good work for making this city a safer place, our sheriff, Benny Napoleon, who actually has stood with me this entire time. We're 19 years. 19. That's an amazing thing. And so we have Sheriff Napoleon, who you're going to hear from in a minute, the Reverend Dr. Georgia Hill, who's the associate pastor here, and we have my wife, Denise Page Hood, who is the chief judge of the federal court. And I pulled her in today because we needed some credible fill. So, Sheriff Napoleon, can you share a word with us?
Thank you, Pastor Hill. You know what, Hood, I'm sorry, I got Hill over here. Sorry, Pastor Hood. You know, I've had the opportunity to stand with Pastor Hood in this effort since it started 19 years ago. And I commend him for, one, having the vision to bring this very important issue to the forefront and to stick with it. I mean, this is something that, quite frankly, he does not have to do. And he has been very vigilant in putting together a coalition to make sure that folks remember every year, this time of the year, to ring in the new year with a bell and not a bang. That's important because since we have started this initiative, we have not had anyone killed by celebratory gunfire. And I have to believe that the pastor's efforts in his conversations with the Almighty have been answered. And we look forward to continuing working with Pastor Hood to make sure that this issue remains at the forefront because, like he said, there are many neighborhoods where gunfire has almost been eliminated, and there's others where you still hear that noise. But I want to say on behalf of law enforcement that it is illegal to fire your weapon in this community in a celebratory manner. That is not a celebration, that is destruction. What goes up must come down. Mm-hmm. And when you fire a projectile into the air, it's going to come down somewhere. So it's a very dangerous thing. If you are caught, you will be arrested and you will be prosecuted. Thank you, Pastor Hood.
Amen. Thank you very much. Sheriff Benny Napoleon. I'd like to invite my wife now, Denise Page Hood, who's the chief judge of the federal court, to just say a word.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm happy to be here. I guess I've been here 19 years, too. And we've been in various places, but we have the same message everywhere, which is to ring in the new year with a bell and not a bang. We know that people want to go out and shoot their guns, but just avoid it. Do something different. Get some bells together and ring them very loudly. And we hope to continue this historic thing of not having anyone shot by celebratory gunfire on New Year's Eve. Thank you all for being with us, and thank the young people for their wonderful signs.
Thank you. Reverend Dr. Georgia Hill was actually with me in the very beginning when we started this campaign. She worked with me on the city council, now is working with me at the church. Can you share just a few thoughts with us?
Sure. I'm very happy to be a part of this campaign, and I invite all of you out there in the city of Detroit to pray for the peace of our city. One thing that one of the young people said in an interview a little while ago, that shooting guns is not like playing a video game. There are consequences, and we mourn when lives are taken senselessly by celebratory gunfire. So I'm going to join with you all on New Year's Eve and every day praying for the peace of our city, that people will put down the guns and learn to resolve conflicts and to reconcile without the use of gunfire. Thank you very much.
Man, thank you. This year, we're joined by a few of the children from our Sunday school right here at the Plymouth United Church of Christ. Sharday, can you say just a word to the media about why you're here today?
Well, why I'm here today is to make sure that everyone is safe and that there's less gunfires, even no gunfires, and that everyone can live their life happy without being violent or anything.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Sharday Patrick. And Jason McGuire, tell us, why are you here today?
Well, a lot of people get killed every day, but I hope people die a peaceful death instead of getting shot or in another way. So I'm here to make sure that doesn't even happen, especially on a holiday. So that's why I'm here today.
Thank you. To the representatives of the media, we are just really very pleased that you're here. Are there any questions that you'd like to ask?
Why is it important for you to include kids in this campaign?
It's important for me because in 1996, I think that was actually the New Year's Eve when Sandra Latham was killed, but we began the campaign in 1997. My wife and I had just come back from Ohio. I had 2 children in the car with us, my 2 sons, and there was gunfire in our neighborhood. We live right behind the Jeffersonian near the Manugian, and there was gunfire at 7:30 that night. And I was afraid. I mean, it sounded like a war zone in my own neighborhood. I didn't want to say anything to my children. I didn't want them to think that I was fearful. And with them being children, they were just playing. You know, it didn't matter to them at all. But I knew the ramifications of it, and so I was not surprised the next morning when I heard on the news that Sandra Latham, a 47-year-old grandmother, had been killed. And so I thought it was important to bring the children out because it was really the children, starting with my own children, that got my focus really on this.
I guess we're saying no one was killed since the campaign started. Was anybody even hurt?
Yes.
Okay.
In the first 5 years or so, we were tracking it, and at the emergency rooms, and there were people who were shot. Now, we don't know for one reason, but there were gunshot victims between 12 and 2. Since then, I have not found any records of that.
Why do you think it's effective? Why do you think this campaign has played a part in reducing celebratory gunfire and injuries?
Good question. For the same reason why people are drinking hard liquor less, why smoking is seceding, you know, it's being diminished. Why teenage pregnancies in some communities is actually dropping. It's because of education. You know, with all due respect, we had the sheriff here who can tell you, and the judge, who can tell you far more eloquently than I can about the ramifications, the criminal ramifications for shooting a gun, discharging a gun. But once we begin to educate people, to me, education is a much, much greater deterrence than fear. We've seen that with smoking, drinking, out-of-wedlock pregnancies, and so I believe the same can happen, and it is happening right now with New Year's Eve gunfire.
How does it make you feel? And if anybody else wants to talk, how does it make you feel to sort of see that reduction?
Well, you know, from a law enforcement perspective, anytime we can see a reduction in violence and people being injured by gunfire, it's always something that we look forward to and that we try very hard throughout the year to happen. But when it happens as a result of people believing that they're celebrating something, and that makes it, it's all bad, but, for people to understand that, you fire a gun in the air, a lot of people really did not understand that projectile does, in fact, come down, and it comes down with sufficient velocity to kill someone. So that's why I think the education process is really the greatest benefit of what we're doing here today, is educating people. And we applaud you for getting the message out. As it relates to young people, I think it's important that they are here because they can hear firsthand as they're growing up. They're going to be adults in this community one day, and they can become advocates for a continuation and spread the word that, hey, this is not something that you should be doing. I've been involved in ringing the New Year with Bell Not a Bang since I was a child, and I'm encouraging everyone not to do it. So I think I applaud the pastor for having them here, and I think it's important that they be here.
I see locks here. What are these locks?
Oh, tell them about the gun locks.
We do have gun locks available here at the church. These gun locks we ask folks to take, and people have firearms in their homes, and a gun is a very, very dangerous item. And if you're going to have a gun in your home, please, by all means, make it so that children and people who are not familiar with handling a gun cannot use that accidentally to hurt somebody. So we have the gun locks here today to say that if you have a gun in your home, they're free. Please take one, come and get one. We really just want to make sure that we render firearms to the point where they cannot hurt anyone accidentally.
How many do you have available?
Well, I don't know. We got a lot of them, so I don't think we'll run out.
Put that out there that you can come by
Yeah.
and pick one up.
And we'll get more. And if we don't have them when you get here, we'll take your name, we'll find some, and we'll get it to you.
All right, are there any other questions? If not, I'd like everybody to take a bill. Does everybody have a bill? And okay, we are going to ring in the New Year with a bell and not a bang. Can we ring? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc.